I followed Jim Hightower's advice, mainly so the Democrats who were mad at Kinky for running as an independent would see who my heroes were. Jim said, tell somebody who your heroes are. They really know who you are. Find out who their heroes are. That's better than interviewing somebody all day long. So I wrote this and I discovered pretty quickly, this is a really tragic group of people. These 23 people that I loved as a kid were troubled. They had obstacles, failures, challenges in their life. And it's a little bit like Willie Nelson says, if you fail at something long enough, you become a legend. And, these 23, I showed the list to college graduates, recent college graduates and college students who were counselors at my parents' camp in Texas. And I should echo him. There you go. Showed them the table of contents. This group of people had only heard of Davy Crockett and Sam Houston, of the 23 people. They had never heard of Barbara Jordan. They had never heard of Molly Ivins. They had never heard of Audie Murphy. They thought Audie Murphy might be a basketball player, but they had no clue. So they don't know. And I don't think that's just Texas. I think we deserve to be 49th in education. But I think most places, most young people don't know upon whose shoulders they stand. So if I ever am governor of Texas, this book will be mandatory reading in the public schools. I can guarantee you that. And of course, after the show, I'll be over there with Karen, and I will sign anything but bad legislation. This one is about my dad, Tom Friedman. It is kept in the present tense. My father died 10 years ago. But this is kept in the present tense, and I recommend everybody keep the people you love in the present tense as long as you can. It's called The Navigator. Because I'm the oldest living Jew in Texas who doesn't own real estate, and given my status in general as a colorful character, there are those who profess to be surprised that I ever indeed had a father or a mother. I assure you, I had both. For many years, my parents owned and directed Echo Hill Ranch, a summer camp near Kerrville, where I grew up, or maybe just got older. I remember my dad, Tom Friedman, talking to all the campers on Father's Day in the dining hall after lunch. Each summer, he'd say essentially the same words. For those of you who are lucky enough to have a father, now's the time to remember him and let him know that you love him. Write a letter home today. Many years have passed since I last heard Tom's message to the campers, but love, I suppose, has no sell-by date. When my father was a young boy, growing up in the Chicago of the late 20s, his first job was working for a Polish peddler. The man had a horse and cart that was loaded up with fruits and vegetables, and Tom sat on the very top. Through the streets and alleys of the old West Side they'd go, with the peddler crying his wares in at least 5 languages, and my father running the purchases up to the housewives who lived on the top floors of the tenement buildings. There were trolley cars then, and colorful clotheslines strung across sooty alleys like medieval banners. My father still remembers the word the peddler seemed to cry out more than any other. The word was kartoffel. It is Polish for potato. In November 1944, my mother, Minnie, gave birth to me in a manger somewhere on the south side of Chicago. I lived there 1 year, couldn't find work, and moved to Texas, where I haven't worked since. this time, my father was far away, fighting for his country and his wife and a baby boy he might never see. Tom was a navigator in World War II, flying a heavy bomber for the 8th Air Force. The old B-24, also known as the Liberator, which, in time, it was. Tom's plane was called the I've Had It. He flew 35 successful missions over Germany, the last occurring on November 9, 1944, 2 days after he learned that he was a brand new father. As the navigator, the responsibility fell to him to bring the 10-man crew back safely. In retrospect, it's not terribly surprising that fate and the powers that be had selected Tom to be the navigator. He was the only one aboard the I've Had It who possessed a college degree. He was also the oldest man on the plane. He was 23 years old. After each successful mission, it was the custom to paint a small bomb on the side of the plane. In the rare event of shooting down an enemy plane, a swastika was painted. When one incoming crew, however, accidentally hit a British runway maintenance worker, a small teacup was painted on the side of the plane, practically engendering an international incident. Tom was a hero in what he still refers to as the last good war. For his efforts, he received the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters and the heartfelt gratitude of his crew. Yet the commanding officer's first words to Tom and his young compatriots had not been wrong. The CO had told them to look at the man on their left and look at the man on their right. When you return, he said, they will not be here. This dire prophecy proved to be correct. The mighty 8th suffered a grievous attrition rate during the height of the war. Like most true war heroes, Tom rarely talks about the war. My sister, Marcy, once saw Tom sitting alone in a darkened room and asked, "Is everything all right, Father?" To this, Tom replied, "The last time everything was all right was August 14, 1945. That was the day Japan surrendered." On a recent trip to O'Hare Airport in Chicago, I commandeered a limo and drove through the area where Tom had grown up. There were slums and suburbs and Starbucks. But the trolley cars and the clotheslines and the peddler with his horse and cart were gone. "Kartoffel," I said to the limo driver, but he just looked straight ahead. Either he wasn't Polish or he didn't want any potatoes. Today, Tom lives in Austin with his new wife, Edith Kruger, and his 2 dogs, Sam and Perky. He has 3 children and 3 grandchildren. He eats lunch at the Frisco, still plays tennis with his old pals. He did not, as he contends, teach me everything I know. Only almost everything. He taught me tennis. He taught me chess. He taught me how to belch. He taught me to always stand up for the underdog. He taught me the importance of treating children like adults and adults like children. He's a significant American because by his example, his spirit, and his unseen hand, he's guided children of all ages safely through the winding, often torturous courses of their lives. One of them was me. Tom's war is long over. Indeed, the whole era seems gone, like the crews who never came home, lost forever among the salt shaker stars. And yet, when the future may look its darkest, there sometimes occurs an oddly comforting moment when, with awkward grace, the shadow of a silver plane flies inexplicably close to my heart. One more mission for the Navigator.